Welcome to Philosophy.
The Business of Benefits is your no BS, no sales guide to real solutions.
No gimmicks, just the truth about how to take control, transform your benefits, and care for your most valuable asset, your people.
If you're tired of the same old sales pitch and you're ready to rethink your benefits, this podcast is for you. The truth is out there. Are you ready to hear it? Today is all about having a strategy. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a multi-year benefits business plan for your company? We're going to walk through a case study, a client of ours that we've had for 5 years that has had decreases every single year, and a plan that was followed to a T. So this should hopefully give all employers listening an example of a roadmap, right, for what a multi-year healthcare strategy would look like. We'll also talk about what's not a multi-year healthcare strategy, and maybe that's familiar to you too. And then we'll leave you with some calls to action. So like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this episode. Welcome to The Business of Benefits. I am your host, Chelsea Reikus, and today you have a solo episode, meaning you get me, yours truly. We'll see how long it goes because you guys know I can talk. But it's actually a very interesting topic today. So what we're talking about is a multi-year healthcare strategy. What does that mean? It means having a business plan for your benefits program. So that's actually how I thought about the name of the podcast when we renamed the podcast this year to The Business of Benefits. That's twofold. One was I wanted it to be about the inner workings of a healthcare plan and the fact that it's a business that's happening and businesses are usually incentivized to make profits. And especially when you're working with larger entities, they may be responsible to shareholders and sort of that expose of what's really happening behind the scenes. So that was one reason that I liked the new title of the podcast. But the second one was I wanted to encourage employers to think of their benefits program long-term, right? How can you actually have a business benefits plan? So let's talk about first the opposite of that, right? What's not a multi-year healthcare strategy? Then we're going to get into what it means to have one. I'm going to share one that we've had. It's a client of 5 years now, about 500 insured employees. And what's really interesting is I went back and looked the other day when I was putting this together, and I'm like, I know we followed the program, right? Like we had KPIs and goals each year, but I'm curious, the very first time we met with them after looking at their data, what did we come up with as a potential multi-year healthcare strategy? So you'll see how we followed that or didn't follow that here shortly. But let's talk about what's not a multi-year healthcare strategy. So the typical experience for a lot of employers is you're going to get your renewal 60, 90, maybe. I've even heard recently as late as 30 days out from your effective date, right? And every year you think, okay, we're going to do it earlier next year. We're going to ask for it at 180 and then somebody won't give it to you. There's a delay. It's really high. So a lot of the times too, if you find yourself in those bad timing situations, it might be because the renewal is high. Your broker is the first person to look at it. They see an 18%. They're like, yikes, that's not going to work. Let me go to market. Let me try to negotiate. And then that delays the process as well. So best practice is the moment the first renewal drops, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it should be shared with you, the employer, right? You can also consider asking in your contract before you sign that you want it dropped by 120 days. So that is our absolute minimum. We will not sign anything less than that. But yes, so the normal experience would be you're getting it late, right? I think most people are like, yep, I know that game. When you get options late, you probably know, and maybe you don't, but without the actual hard copy of the renewal, it's pretty much impossible for you to benchmark your broker, meaning for you to go to a consultant like me at Ethos Benefits and say, hey, we're tired and sick of being stuck in this year after year reactive game. Can you try to create a strategy for us that will put us into control over the long term, maybe give us some stability? You can give me your census, you can give me your SBCs, you can give me all the data that you have or don't have. But at the end of the day, we need that renewal to firm up the proposal. So your broker and your carrier, they know this. And that's another tactic for holding on to it, creating that last minute experience where you're put up against the wall, you're choosing between the same 3 or 4 options you saw last year. You're told you have bad claims. You're told this is just a shitty year and hopefully it'll be better next year. And oh, don't worry, we'll start earlier. So that's not a multi-year healthcare strategy, right? I think everybody can agree with that. That is reactive, that is unpredictable, and it's not very stable. If you're finding yourself in that, I want you to consider what it would be like to run your benefits plan like any other department in your business. And what I mean by that is most departments and most businesses have a strategy, right? And it probably wouldn't be acceptable for other departments in your business to not only underperform and miss deadlines, but to eat away at company profits, to the margin of 8 to 12% every single year. That's likely not going to be an okay thing in any business. So why is it okay with healthcare? Think about this. If you have a benefits business plan, what that means is a consultant, somebody like myself at Ethos, can come to you after we review your data and we can say, hey, we think over the next 3 to 5 years, we can get you here. This is what here looks like. Again, I'm going to give you an example here shortly. But here's the really interesting thing. You as the employer, I say this every episode, you have so much more power and control than you've ever known. You could say, I want my per employee per year cost to be $8,000. And we could get you there within 2 years, definitely 3, definitely 4, definitely 5. But it depends how aggressive you want to go. So you actually have so many options, not just those 3 or 4 options that you see every year. All right, so let's dive into this example of what a benefits business plan could look like. So back in 2020, we met with this client. They're 500 insured, a little over 1,000 eligible, employees all over the country. At the time, they were in a PEO, and they were in this pooled risk group. And because they were in a PEO, they were not getting access to any data, even with 500 insured employees. So going to market was a little bit more difficult when you don't have that data. So what we did was we put together a 5-year benefits business plan, and we are going into our 5th year. They renewed 5/1. So we're actually going into our 5th year. I went back and I found the very first presentation that we ever gave them, and I looked at the proposed business plan, and it's exactly what we said we would do, which is so cool to me. So let me share what we proposed back in 2020. Year 1, the theme for the year, so we have a theme every single year, acquire. So acquire claims data on the healthcare spend, because again, they were with the PEOs, they had absolutely no data. And the current carrier would only allow a similar carrier change. So year 1 was all about acquiring. Let's get data. Let's put you in a position for success in the future. So if you're coming off of a fully insured plan, maybe you're going to be unbundling from a PEO model. That's always going to be year 1. You got to get data. There's a lot of ways to do that too. It doesn't mean, I'll share the way that we did it with this group, and then I'll give you more examples. A lot of the times people assume you need to go to a level funded program to get data. Not necessarily the case. Every state is different. You could still be in a fully insured contract. You could negotiate better contract terms. There's all sorts of things that you can do to get a little bit creative to access data, including using the CAA of 2021 to your advantage while reviewing contracts. So year 1 was full access. And I say full access, it's not compared to the PEO. It was, full access. We had reporting. It was not to the penny accounting. I will definitely say that. So we had to go fully insured with a large BUCA carrier. Year 2, the theme was measure. So measure claims to properly negotiate renewal and put us in a better position to unbundle. We were going to weigh the timing and implementation of cost containment strategies, and we were going to use ongoing claims throughout the plan year to educate on things that we could do in the future. So year 2, we ended up going level funded with the same carrier that we were fully insured with in year 1. And what was interesting is, yes, you get more data. I think most people know that if you go into a level funded program, one of the perks is usually better reporting and better access to data, a little bit more visibility and transparency, right? But we still had really big issues with our prescription spend. And in the level funded model, the carrier owns the PBM. There's the vertical integration there of the carrier and the PBM. And the rebates were not getting passed to the client. There were no options to source drugs for cheaper. There was no incentive of the PBM to lower drug prices in any way. So our per member per month in this program was $122 for RX spend, which compared to the rest of our book of business is exceptionally high. So that was our big thing that we wanted to fix. Year 3, the theme, manage. So implement unbundled custom healthcare solutions, market all 4 pieces of the plan, TPA, PBM, stop loss, and the network, and get started on these cost containment strategies. So year 3 is my favorite year because that's really, the bigger step that we took into managing this program long term. So what we did was we unbundled the plan. So remember those 4 pieces of the plan I just mentioned? We went and we found an independent TPA. We found a fiduciary PBM. We shopped and contracted for our own stop loss. And we used another very comparable national network, not the same one, but there was hardly any disruption whatsoever in terms of network coverage. Large national PPO network. And that's helpful, by the way, in really easing employees into some of the transitions if there's at least that kind of known logo and you make changes on these other pieces. And then the next year you can transition again if you want into removing that large national network with those oh so great PPO discounts. But nonetheless, so that was year 3. Favorite year because it was obviously very financially impactful to do that. But more than that, the employees absolutely loved this program. And something I'll add, so remember, year 1 was acquire, year 2 was measure, year 3 was manage. What we really focused on in year 1 and 2, which was acquire and measure, was building trust with employees. So how did we do this? We have a text messaging platform. It's a bilateral text messaging communication portal that also includes the ability for employees to click the text message link. It opens up with no sign-on required, by the way, not another password, not another app. It always sounds nice to have like a benefits app. I'm telling you, most of them are a pain in the ass. This is so much easier. They get a text message, they click the link, the message opens up, and they can access from there with little tiles anything to do with their benefits. They can schedule a one-on-one, they can get to their payroll system, they can get to the benefit guide, etc. File a claim, all the things. So the importance of building up trust with the employees in those earlier years, right? Year 1, where it's a relatively simple program, right? A fully insured BUCA plan. We could literally close our eyes and administer that. Anybody in the country could close their eyes and administer that, I hope. The secret sauce in those 2 years, right? When you were with a BUCA and you were fully insured and then you went level funded, secret sauce lies in blowing the employees' minds from a customer service perspective, creating trust. And how do you create trust? You show up consistently and you deliver results. So the cool thing that I haven't mentioned yet, which is very important, is every single year of this 5-year plan, we've delivered a decrease. I'll say that again. Every single year of this 5-year business benefits plan, we've delivered a decrease. That also encourages trust with employees when they can see, they're not having that same conversation where it's like, hey guys, healthcare sucks. Sorry, your premiums are going up. No, they're seeing that the company really does have a plan, really does have a strategy, and there's a support team there that will go to the ends of the earth to serve you. So I just want to mention building the trust with them those first 2 years when the program was pretty turnkey was absolutely critical. So we have annual strategic communication campaigns. We have advocacy webinars for this client. We had on-site at their annual conferences where we would go and do presentations. We did happy hour trivias. We're always doing fun, engaging things with them. It's a younger population. We send out memes. They think it's hilarious. There's a lot of engagement. So that trust really helped in year 3 when we were like, okay, guys, your ID card looks completely different this year. You've got that little logo that in the top corner for your network, but it's not, you might go to the doctor and they might say, this is odd, or they might look for you in the wrong eligibility system. Things will happen, right? Like when change when the path of change is walked, I'm just going to say it how it is. Shit happens. And the question is not, is something going to happen that's disruptive? It's when something happens that's disruptive, do we have the trust in place and the goodwill in place that it's not that big of a deal? And can we fix it so fast that it's a blip in the radar? And then the third part of that is, are we delivering results, whether that's financial or health outcomes, that makes that little blip in the radar worth it to the employee, right? So year 3 was all about managing. We unbundled, again, fiduciary PBM, independent TPA, independent stop loss, and a national network just for that PPO type convenience experience for the employees. When we unbundled the pharmacy, so remember I said earlier, the pharmacy was our biggest issue. We had $122.64 per member per month under the level funded program, with a few high cost drugs that we could do absolutely nothing about because the PBM was owned by the carrier. When we went to that year 3 model, I wish I could like ask the audience, hey, what do you think it was? But you guys can't answer me back, so I'll just tell you. $61.34 per member per month reduction in cost, which ultimately led to $482,000 in annual savings just on pharmacy. And the best part about this is that no employees were asked to do anything different, right? They went and they filled their drugs wherever they wanted to fill their drugs. There was no disruption in their life whatsoever. So that was a really big win. And it's something that we had been telling the group would happen for multiple years as soon as we were able to pull the pharmacy out from that bundled model. So that was year 3. Year 4 was all about implementing additional solutions. So again, another year of a decrease, which was great. So some years we had reductions of 2%, some years were 5%, some years were 20%. But the point is, every single year the cost went down, right? How different is that than the typical experiences that you hear for employer renewals? So year 4, again, was all about implementing really targeted solutions based on the claims data that we were seeing. So something that we added was clinical bill review. And this has been super interesting. Basically, this third-party solution that we've hired is going to be doing audits of bills that are over a certain amount. That you don't actually pay them up front to do this. They take a percentage of savings, which I'm a fan of that contract in certain modalities within the plan. But already the savings have been tremendous. Additionally, this year, they just ended their plan year. So we just started year 5, or we're starting year 5 here in a couple weeks. But in year 4, we had 13 members utilize the international pharmacy. So this is where we're sourcing drugs from tier 1 countries like Canada, the UK, New Zealand, who actually have higher FDA standards than what we have here in the US. And if you're not familiar with this program, the drug is the exact same. It's coming from the same manufacturer. It's literally the same drug. So it's not some sketchy drug that you're getting from some sketchy place. It's literally the same drug, same box, being mail ordered to employees, usually in a 90-day supply, and the employees are getting it for free. And the health plan is saving a ton of money in the process as well. So it's a very, very much a win-win. I will caveat that with certain states have certain rules around this. So depending on where your employees are, you may or may not be able to offer this. You may or may not be able to make it mandatory. There's a lot of like legislation kind of happening around the PBM and the international sourcing and the pathways for sourcing. So just make sure you're working with somebody that's really up to speed on if this will work for you or not. But nonetheless, it works for this client. And last year, $364,000 in annual savings having the international pharmacy. So, and again, that last year, so again, they end 5/1. $1.6 million in savings over the last 12 months. Important to note that the count of insured did go down. This industry faced some serious challenges in the last year. So less than 500 insured, I think it was closer to maybe like 380, 400. But nonetheless, $1.6 million in the last year of additional savings. So every single year, again, Because we had this plan, right? We had this pathway that we were following. And by the way, we're not done. So year 5 just started. We're going to be adding more and more levers, right? Every single year as we look at the claims and we see, okay, do we need direct contracts for cancer treatment? Do we need a diabetes management program? Are we having musculoskeletal issues? Should we look at direct primary care? That's actually not been a great solution for this company because employees are in quite literally all 50 I'm Canadian, so I always forget, is it 50 states or 51? But whatever. Every state in the US, there's an employee from this company. So, a virtual DPC option is probably a better fit, but not necessarily the local. So my point is that because we have data, because we have a plan, because we have savings, because we have goodwill with the employees, because we have stability, we can continue to build on the success that we've had. The other thing, there's like 2 ways to do this. All right. So you can have the business benefits plan that I just spoke about, right? I gave you an example of a 5-year strategy that was executed to a T. So proud of our team. It's positive. It's continually a decrease every single year, which nobody's used to. So everybody's happy. There's excess and surplus in the millions of dollars. There's programs that are giving employees free stuff all the time. There's a level of service that they've never seen before. Check out the Google reviews for Ethos benefits if you haven't. A lot of them come from this company and specifically, and I'm telling you, like, they're having that goodwill and having that trust goes a long way when you're putting in new programs. So it's positive, it's progressing every single year, and there's stability, which is the exact opposite of the typical renewal experience, right? And that's not to say, right, that every single year we're going to be able to deliver a decrease for the next 5 years. I sure hope so. But maybe not. But even so, if we've had anywhere between 5 and 20% decreases for 5 years in a row, right? And we do get hit with an increase because of claims and maybe whatever the issue is, right? This group also is not a candidate for reference-based pricing, which is an amazing way to lower cost. If that's the case, that's still so much better over the 5 to 10 years that we're looking at than just swallowing 5 to 15% increases due to trend, right? Like the difference, I should have done that math before this podcast, but the difference is huge. So, like I said, there's 2 ways to do it. You can have this strategic business benefits plan, work with a long-term, forward-thinking consultant that can structure this and implement it. And I will tell you, talking the talk, talking about reference-based pricing, talking about direct primary care, talking about claims audits and bill reviews and data transparency and data analytics and international pharmacy, talking about it is pretty easy, right? Walking the walk, that's that service side I'm talking about. That's the implementation side. That is a whole different ballgame. So make sure you have proof that if somebody's talking about these things, they're walking these things, for lack of a better term. So that's one way to do it. That's the recommended way to do it. But there's another way to enforce change, and that is biting the bullet. That is the shock and awe factor. I'm actually speaking on stage at the Florida Healthcare Alliance with a local Florida employer, 400 employees, who took that route. He did not take a graded, steady, progressive, stable approach. He instead decided, we're just going to do this in year 1. Reference-based pricing, direct primary care, direct contracting. I mean, you name it, we did it. Is that what I recommended? It's not. But he knew his people, he knew his culture, and we will actually do another episode on like the shock and awe. If you want to drastically reduce your spend, drastically improve health outcomes, and you don't want to do it over a graded slow approach, and you feel like you have the trust, the goodwill, the leadership, the culture that can sustain a change like that, that has been an absolutely incredible story, a incredible case study. But it's not for everybody, right? This specific employer is in the top 1% of workplaces in the entire nation for leadership, trust, etc. So you really have to have a special culture to be able to implement a change of that magnitude that quickly. But again, 2 ways to do it: slow, steady, progressive, or shock and awe. Either way, you need the right team, which is a conversation for another day. So I will leave you with this. Get out of the reactive model. If you're hearing excuses from the people that you're trusting to bring you real solutions, don't believe them anymore, right? Like you can only hear the same shit for so long before at some point, regardless of who that person is, right? It's your husband, it's your relative, it's a colleague, it's your broker, it's your friend who maybe is your broker. Regardless of how much you like that person, you need them to deliver results. So if they're not delivering results, if you're hearing the same old, it's probably time to benchmark. And I'll give you a really easy way out if you need it. Hey, I have a fiduciary duty to my employees under ERISA. Therefore, I need to benchmark our program and our consultant broker every couple of years. So just so you know, giving you a heads up, we're going to benchmark the program this year. It's your ERISA fiduciary obligation, right? It's not you being a bad friend or you being a bad person or anything like that. So I highly recommend consider getting into a multi-year healthcare strategy, a graded, slow approach to change. Your employees will thank you in 3 to 5 years. I'll tell you one more quick story and then I promise we'll be done. We have an employer that locally has done the changes that we talked about, right? It's a different client, different benefits business plan, similar path, different years. We did different things compared to the one I just shared with you. But nonetheless, we had a plan, we followed it, it's worked. There is a competitor of this company actually, that came to us 5 years ago, wanted us to create a strategy for them. We did. They chose not to take it. There was an existing relationship with the broker in place, health issues, all these reasons that they chose not to pursue working with a consultant and a long-term strategy. The cost differential, that company is paying double. I can see on the 5500s. They are paying double what this competitor is paying. And we see employees, new hires come in, my team talks to them, they're enrolling them. Oh, where did you come from? A lot of them are coming from that company. So it's not just about this year. It's about 5 years from now. It's about attracting, retaining, and giving the best experience to your employees possible while creating stability in your bottom line. It's very simple. Have a business plan like you do for every other part of your business. If you have any questions, please reach out. I am so happy to structure one of these for you, or at the very least, give you guidance on how to do it.